if you were to make the case to a layperson who doesn't get the issue of freedom of information and the issues around copyright reform, and this layperson says to you, well, I'm the artist, I'm the writer, I want to make money off of this, and so I want to protect my intellectual property. Why should people be protected for stealing it online?
So Aaron's law is specifically about this question of what constitutes computer fraud. And in the way that the law is written right now, if you use your friend's password to log into Netflix, or if you check Facebook at work, where they have a workplace policy that you can't check Facebook there, you could be prosecuted as a felon. Now, it probably won't happen, but if a prosecutor is angry at you for some extraneous reason, they can totally do that. It's kind of like the wire fraud acts that were used to take down the mafia. Computer fraud laws are currently so broadly written that almost every normal internet user at some point is committing a felony in their everyday life. And then really, you only benefit from that if you're the prosecutor who gets to now to prosecute whoever you want. In terms of basic kind of civil liberties and protections, nobody wins there.
Well, I completely agree. I mean, I think that there are separate issues here, which is reforming the CFAA, which granted so much prosecutorial discretion to Carmen Ortiz and the U.S. Attorney's Office of Massachusetts to really to end up basically to be confronting Aaron with decades in prison for releasing information releasing studies from JSTOR that he had access to, but maybe not as many copies. It is infuriating, and it's frightening. And I encourage everyone, all of our listeners, to go to demandprogress.org and to go to flamingswordofjustice.com and to get involved in this issue, because it's something that right and left can really can really sort of unite and work together on. But I guess, Ben, what I was thinking is that there's a broader issue here. Let's say a little bit in SOPA and PIPA, but also obviously there was a lot of overreach and enforcement built into it that was extremely obnoxious and problematic and frightening. Yeah. But the broader issue of copyrights in general and the move toward things like Creative Commons, which Aaron helped found, where people that write books can publish for free because they want that information to live free and to reach as many people as possible. Is there a tension there between sort of artists and writers who want to be able to make a living from it and pay themselves?
So right now, if you think about the scales of justice, it's like big Hollywood studios and the handful of corporations that own most of the media have a giant brick on one side of those scales. And I think for activists, what we're looking for is a little bit of balance. To give you one example, right now, if you come up with an idea like Mickey Mouse, it's not that that's protected and your sole property for 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. Your copyright lasts at least 100 years. And every time we get close to the expiration of that copyright, Congress extends the law. And what that means is that, for basically all culture that's been created in the last century, it's never entering the public domain in the way that, all the great stories of the Bible or, famous myths and fables, or people like Mark Twain or Huckleberry Finn, or all these characters who were created and now are kind of part of the common cultural heritage of everyone in our country, that ends at the point at which these copyright laws come into effect. And if I'm a writer or an author or artist or a musician, I'd like to be able to make some money during my lifetime from the things I create. But I'd also like the next generation to be able to continue having my work live on. Right now, if you try to sing "Happy Birthday to You" in a documentary film, you have to pay rights to the owner of the "Happy Birthday to You" tune. You have to pay them money. It's crazy, right? There's no reason the world should be set up that way. And my great-grandchildren, won't be able to make their own versions of Lady Gaga songs if this system continues. It really doesn't. It serves a very small number of people's interests. And for writers and artists right now, they don't need the system to be this unbalanced for intellectual property to work for them.
And I think at the heart of the issue is sort of what, in some ways, has made America so strong economically in the past, is that there was room on the margins to experiment and to break into certain markets. That we've had a relatively open community college system, that guys like Steve Jobs and people that were doing that stuff at that time were doing things a little bit that were violating some copyrights initially and were violating some laws in a minor way, but they didn't but there was some discretion there, because it was understood that that kind of experimentation allows new people to innovate, allows new people to enter the market. And I couldn't agree more with what you're talking about the scales of justice being right now completely on one side, and the idea that they could shut down some of these websites because of use of generic tunes and ideas that all of us have in common is just scary. And I'm really glad that you're fighting that fight with us. And I encourage everyone to go to demandprogress.org, flamingswordofjustice.com. Ben Wickler, he's the host of the Flaming Sword of Justice, coming to We Act Radio soon. It's powered by MoveOn.org. You can follow him on Twitter at Ben Wickler, Wikler, and go to flamingswordofjustice.com. Ben, thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll join us again soon.
Thanks, my pleasure, and look forward to having you guys on the sword as well.
All right. Well, we look forward to that too.